Good morning. Welcome to News for Hearing Impaired. I am Anil Thomas. With me, Meera, this morning. First up, the headlines. India's massive evacuation mission Vande Bharat continues, bringing back Indians. Flights bring back 234 Indians from Singapore, 165 students from Dhaka, 177 passengers and 5 infants from Bahrain. 2 flights from Dubai to Chennai bring back 356 people. Indian Navy to bring back countrymen in 2 ships during the first phase of evacuation. INS Jalaswa set sail from Mall to Kochi with 698 Indian nationals expected to arrive by Sunday morning. INS Magar to bring back Indians from Maldives next week. Railways run 230 Shramik special trains for movement of stranded persons. Transports more than 2.6 lakh people to various states across the country. Prime Minister Modi holds telephonic conversation with Prime Minister of Italy, conveys condolences for the loss of lives in Italy due to COVID-19, discusses measures to address health and economic impact of COVID-19 in both countries as well as at a global level. Active cases of COVID-19 in India rise to 37,916 with 16,539 recoveries and 1,886 deaths. Health Ministry says recovery rate improves at almost 30%. Union Health Minister along with MOS holds meeting with health ministers of Tamil Nadu, Telangana, Karnataka through video conference. Home Minister reviews measures for ensuring well-being and containing spread of COVID-19 among Central Armed Police Forces. Expressing concern over increasing cases, Home Minister assures dedicated hospital facility for CAPF personnel. And coronavirus cases continue to increase across the world with over 39 lakh cases. Fatalities rise to 2.74 lakh, while 13 lakh people recover. Italy's death toll tops 30,000. And now for the stories in detail. India's massive repatriation exercise, codenamed Vande Bharat, has begun the process of bringing back Indians back home stranded abroad because of COVID-19. Day 2 saw 6 flights heading home. The first flight to land was from Singapore. Air India's B787 flight brought back 234 Indians and it landed a little after noon in Delhi on Friday. Another flight from Dhaka ferried Indian students to Srinagar. With around 165 medical students aboard, Air India evacuated the first batch of Indian nationals that were stuck in Bangladesh due to the lockdown. The students thanked the government for bringing them home. Total 7 flights will depart from Dhaka under the Vande Bharat mission. The third flight to land was from Riyadh to Kozhikode with around 145 passengers on board. The fourth flight, carrying 152 passengers, 25 children and 5 infants from Bahrain, safely landed at the Cochin International Airport. While the last 2 flights of the day came from Dubai, with one carrying 179 passengers and the other 177 on board, landed overnight in Chennai. Almost 200 workers, 37 pregnant women and 42 medical cases were on the 2 Chennai flights. The rest were elderly people, stranded tourists and families of those travelling. The central government is planning to operate 64 flights from May 7th to 13th to bring back home around 14,800 Indian nationals stranded abroad because of COVID-19 lockdown. The evacuation of Indians from London will begin from today. Indian Navy has launched Operation Samudra Setu, meaning Sea Bridge, as a part of national effort to repatriate Indian citizens from overseas. Indian naval ships Jalashwa and Magar are part of the first phase of evacuation operations from May 8th. In the first phase, Indian naval ship Jalashwa left from Malé in Maldives with 698 passengers. Undertaking suitable preparations for the evacuation by sea, the ship will reach Kochi in Kerala tomorrow. Medical teams undertook preliminary COVID screening of all passengers. While INS Magar will bring back Indians from Maldives next week. Thousands of migrant workers stranded in various states due to the countrywide lockdown imposed as a precaution against COVID-19 finally reached their homes on special Shramik trains launched by the government to help stranded people return home. So far, more than 260,000 such passengers have been ferried by around 230 trains. Southwestern Railway yesterday operated 4 Shramik special trains. 2 trains each carrying 1,200 passengers each left the Chikabanwara station in Bengaluru to Lucknow. The third Shramik special train left from Malur in Bengaluru to Danapur with 1,200 passengers and 7 children. While the fourth Shramik special train left for Hatia. Southwestern Railway has run 11 Shramik specials based on demand of state government for citizens to return to their hometowns after the lockdown due to the COVID-19 pandemic. Western Railway yesterday ferried approximately 3,600 passengers to their destinations in Uttar Pradesh and Bihar. Other trains were also ferried people from Aurangabad and Goa to Madhya Pradesh, from Punjab to Gwalior and Ratlam, from Nagpur to Muzaffarpur, from Rajkot to Bhagalpur, from Ludhiana to Purnia, from Lingampalli in Telangana to Dhanbad, and from Surat to Jayashree in Jharkhand. These special trains are being run from point to point with no stoppages en route. Trains depart the stations only after all the passengers were medically examined by respective state governments with a medical certificate. The Railway Protection Force team is escorting the trains. All registered students of Bihar who were studying in different institutions in Kota in Rajasthan have returned to Bihar. The last train reached Ara station in Bhojpur district yesterday with 1,250 students of Kota. State Transport Secretary Sanjay Agarwal said that around 13,473 students have come back. So far, over 82,000 migrant workers, students and tourists have been brought back to Bihar through 70 trains. Prime Minister Narendra Modi had a telephonic conversation with the Prime Minister of Italy, Giuseppe Conte. Prime Minister Modi conveyed his condolences for the loss of lives in Italy caused by the COVID-19 pandemic. He commended the fortitude shown by citizens of Italy during the crisis. The two leaders discussed the measures required to address the health and economic impact of the pandemic in their own countries as well as at the global level. They expressed solidarity with each other and appreciated the mutual cooperation extended towards each other's stranded nationals. India assured Italy of its unstinted support in provision of essential medicines and other items. The leaders agreed to continue active consultation and cooperation between India and Italy to further strengthen bilateral relations. The Italian Prime Minister reiterated his invitation to Prime Minister Modi to visit Italy at a suitable time. Prime Minister Modi also shared a tweet regarding the same. He said, and I quote, "Conveyed my deep condolences to Prime Minister Giuseppe Conte for the loss of lives in Italy due to COVID-19. India and Italy will work together for addressing the challenges of the post-COVID-19 world, including through our consecutive presidencies of the G20. According to the Ministry of Health and Family Welfare, 56,342, that's the total cases that have been registered in India. That includes 37,916 active cases. 16,539 people have been cured or have been discharged, while 1,886 people have died due to COVID-19. Maharashtra remains the worst affected with 17,974 total confirmed cases, followed by 7,012 confirmed cases in Gujarat, 5,980 cases in Delhi and 5,409 cases in Tamil Nadu. Health Ministry said 21 hospitals to have clinical trials of plasma therapy.
आईसीएमआर कॉन्वलेसेंट प्लाज्मा की सेफ्टी और एफिकेसी को असेस करने के लिए क्लिनिकल ट्रायल्स 21 हॉस्पिटल में करेगा, जिसमें से कि 5 अस्पताल महाराष्ट्र से हैं, 4 गुजरात से हैं, राजस्थान, तमिलनाडु, मध्य प्रदेश और उत्तर प्रदेश से 2-2 अस्पताल हैं, साथ ही पंजाब, कर्नाटक, तेलंगाना, चंडीगढ़ से 1 अस्पताल है।
Director General of Council of Scientific and Industrial Research, Shekhar Mande, has said that CSIR is working intensively with many pharmaceuticals to bring upon solutions against COVID-19. The Drug Controller General of India has given approval for clinical trials of Favipiravir, which is used in influenza in Japan, China and several other countries. The drug can be potentially useful against COVID-19.
CSIR is working with multiple pharmaceutical companies in trying to see whether we can bring certain solutions to the market as interventions against COVID-19. In this regard, a few clinical trials CSIR has already initiated in partnership with certain companies. The Drug Controller General of India has given us approval for 2 more clinical trials. One is on a drug called Favipiravir. It's a drug which is used against influenza in Japan, China and other countries, and we believe that this drug also could be potentially useful against COVID-19.
Union Health Minister Dr. Harshvardhan held a review meeting with the states of Telangana, Tamil Nadu and Karnataka via video conferencing. The Union Minister has already met with health ministers of Delhi, Maharashtra, Madhya Pradesh, Uttar Pradesh, Gujarat, Odisha, Bihar and a senior official from West Bengal and discussed the COVID situation in the states. During the meeting, he highlighted that India now has over 800 COVID-19 dedicated hospitals and over 1 lakh ICU beds.
We have about 821 total dedicated COVID hospitals, where we have already organized some 1,50,000 hospital beds, ICU plus isolation, and also we have about 1,898 total COVID health centers. There also another 1,19,000 odd beds are there. Apart from this, we have something like 7,607 quarantine centers also in the whole country.
Dr. Harshvardhan also said that the number of labs have gone up over 450 and the testing capacity has increased to 95,000 people in a day.
We have tested 14,40,433 individuals at the country level, and our lab count has now gone to 453, which includes 332 labs in the government sector and 121 in the private sector. We have now, at the moment, we have a testing capacity of 95,000 tests in a day.
Union Minister for Home Affairs Amit Shah chaired a review meeting of Director Generals of all Central Armed Police Forces. He appreciated the commendable work being done by our CAPFs in this difficult situation of COVID-19 management. Home Minister said that the Modi government is not only concerned over the spread of COVID-19 but is making out all efforts to ensure safety, security and well-being of all CAPFs. During the meeting, the innovative measures taken by each of the CAPFs in order to contain the disease were also discussed. Acknowledging efforts of CAPF personnel in the fight against COVID-19, Amit Shah asked the senior officers to ensure important things like timely payment of terminal dues, including ex gratia, insurance, etc. He stressed on proper arrangements for their health checkup and treatment, including establishment of a dedicated hospital facility for COVID-19 affected CAPF personnel and also increasing effective tracing and testing facilities. The minister has also suggested that there should be sharing of best practices among the CAPFs and also laying down the standard operating procedure for health-related as well as management issues like sanitization and ensuring the use of appropriate protective gear by the personnel, etc. While clearing the air about the remaining exams for 10th and 12th standard, Union Minister for Human Resource and Development Ramesh Pokhriyal Nishank announced that the Central Board for Secondary Education will conduct examinations for the remaining 29 main subjects from the 1st of July to July 15th. He added that the examinations will be conducted only for main subjects. Other subjects will be evaluated through internal assessment. The Union Minister announced the decision via a tweet along with a video. The exams were postponed due to COVID-19 lockdown.
सीबीएसई बोर्ड के जो बचे हुए पेपर हैं वो 1 जुलाई से 15 जुलाई के बीच सभी पेपर होंगे। कुछ लोगों की ये शंका है कि क्या सभी विषयों के जो पेपर्स हो गए क्या उन विषयों के भी होंगे। जो पेपर हो चुके हैं उन विषयों के दोबारा पेपर नहीं होंगे। और वैसे तो 83 प्रश्न पत्र हैं, लेकिन जो वैकल्पिक आपके प्रश्न पत्र हैं उनको आंतरिक मूल्यांकन के आधार पर होंगे। केवल कुल मिलाकर के 29 प्रश्न पत्र बचे हुए हैं जो मूल विषय के हैं। यही 29 मूल विषयों के प्रश्न पत्र 1 जुलाई से 15 जुलाई के बीच होंगे।
Well, moving to international stories, coronavirus cases continue to increase worldwide with over 39 lakh confirmed cases being recorded, while the fatalities have risen to over 2,74,000, with 13 lakh people having recovered from COVID-19. The worst affected remains the United States of America, recording 1,635 coronavirus deaths in the last 24 hours. The U.S. has now an overall death toll of 77,178 people with more than 12,83,000 positive infections. The total number of people recovered in the country stood at 1,98,933. U.S. President Donald Trump reached out to several world leaders to discuss the coronavirus pandemic and the global economy. Meanwhile, in Los Angeles, stores remain closed even as the new state rules came into force to allow some retailers and manufacturers to begin reopening from lockdown. According to the new rules, many low-risk stores and retailers selling such items as books, clothes, music and toys would provide curbside pickup to customers, while restaurants would still remain closed for in-house dining. While in Texas, salons, barbershops, nail salons and tanning facilities were allowed to open their doors on Friday for the first time in well over a month. In other updates, U.S. Vice President Mike Pence's press secretary Kathy Miller tested positive for COVID-19. Miller, the wife of White House immigration advisor Stephen Miller, tested positive on Friday, a day after President Donald Trump's valet had tested positive for the virus. However, officials confirmed that Trump had not had contact with the infected Pence staffer recently. United Kingdom continues to remain the worst affected country in Europe with over 31,000 coronavirus deaths. Considering the situation, Prime Minister Boris Johnson will not announce any dramatic changes to Britain's coronavirus lockdown, adopting a cautious approach to try and ensure there is no second deadly peak of infections. A cabinet minister said the country is not out of the woods and that there isn't going to be any dramatic overnight change to the lockdown. Prime Minister Johnson is expected to set out a roadmap for the next steps following a review by ministers of the current measures. 626 people have died in the past 24 hours, taking the total death toll to 31,315 with over 212,000 confirmed cases. The toll rise to 31,315 deaths the numbers that we have spoken about, Britain registering 212,629 COVID-19 infections, while Britain took part in a nationwide sing-along yesterday to mark the end of the Second World War. Keeping their distance from one another, residents stepped out of their homes to sing a rendition of the wartime classic, We'll Meet Again. Italy registered 243 deaths yesterday, bringing the total of those who died in the country to 30,201. With 1,327 more cases registered in the 24-hour period ending Friday evening, Italy now tallies 217,185 confirmed coronavirus infections. Lombardy in the north of the country continues to be the hardest hit region, accounting for nearly one half of the latest cases registered on Friday. Meanwhile, churches in Italy started preparing for an eventual easing of lockdown restrictions and a resumption of public mass. However, government has urged people to follow safety rules amid partial ease of lockdown measures. In France, the number of COVID-19 deaths exceeded 26,000. French Health Ministry reported 243 new coronavirus-related deaths in the past 24 hours. According to the official data, over 22,700 patients remain in hospitals and more than 2,800 of them are in intensive care units. France is preparing to start loosening lockdown restrictions from Monday after weeks of declining hospitalization rates. Moving to Spain, Madrid and Barcelona, Spain's two largest cities, will remain under lockdown as the rest of the country eases its way towards normal life. Both the cities were the hardest hit by COVID-19. The government is enacting a four-phase exit from the lockdown depending on measures like the rate of infection in regions. The second stage allows bars, restaurants and places of worship to open with limited capacity. 26,299 people have lost their lives in Spain due to COVID-19. Meanwhile, in one sign of life returning to normal, Barcelona's beaches opened from 6 a.m. to 10 a.m. yesterday under provisions allowing people to take exercises. People paddled on boats and swam under police supervision. The World Health Organization, WHO, has said all nations must carry out the basic principles of public health surveillance if they are to bring the coronavirus outbreak under control. The head of the WHO's Health Emergencies Program, Mike Ryan, said that all countries should focus on the fundamentals of the global coronavirus fight, hunting down new infections, confirming them, and then separating those affected. The call for a return to greater vigilance comes as more countries turn their efforts towards reopening economies battered by the pandemic. Eurozone ministers yesterday formally approved $260 billion in credit lines to help European countries meet the crippling cost of fighting the coronavirus outbreak. This amount is the first part of around $600 billion rescue plan. Finance ministers of the 19-nation region signed off the details.